Hello? Welcome to our second journey into the world of ancient Greek philosophy. In our first video, we covered the basics of philosophy and the most important thoughts of the era with 60 questions. Now we are continuing to delve deeper into this unique era by answering the remaining 85 new questions. If you haven't watched our first video with the first 60 questions, we recommend that you watch it first. If you're ready, let's pick up where we left off exploring ancient Greek philosophy. Questions about the atomists. Question 61. What is Democritus's theory of atomism? According to Democritus, the universe is fundamentally made up of indivisible, constantly moving and indestructible atoms. These atoms differ in shape, size and arrangement, and they combine and separate in the void to form objects. Question 62. What is the basic building block of the universe according to the atomists? According to the atomists, the basic building block of the universe is the indivisible atom, which exists in infinite variety. These atoms move within the void and form all the objects in the universe. Question 63. How does the philosophy of the atomists explain the relationship between matter and consciousness? The atomists base consciousness and the soul on a material foundation. According to Democritus, the soul consists of fine and mobile atoms. Consciousness and thought are dependent on the movement of these atoms. Question 64. Which scientific disciplines were inspired by the philosophy of the atomists in later periods? Atomism has inspired scientific disciplines, particularly physics and chemistry. Modern atomic theory and scientific studies explaining the structure of matter are based on the ideas of the atomists. Question 65. What are the main differences between atomism and other philosophical schools of thought? Atomism explains nature with a materialistic approach, while some other schools, especially Plato and Aristotle, offered metaphysical and teleological explanations. While the atomists seek material causes at the root of change, other schools associate change with more abstract concepts. Question 66. What is the relationship between the atomists' understanding of matter and modern science? The atomists' understanding of matter paved the way for modern atomic theory. Democritus's ideas about the properties and movements of atoms parallel the scientifically proven atomic theory of the 19th century. Question 67. What are the philosophical implications of Democritus's atomic theory? Democritus's theory explained the order of the universe with a mechanistic understanding and proposed that events in nature are based on material causes rather than supernatural forces. This formed the basis of scientific thought. Question 68. How do the atomists explain the nature of the universe? According to the atomists, the universe is formed by the movement and combination of atoms in the void. This process is random and does not involve any divine or teleological explanation. Question 69. In what ways has atomic theory influenced philosophical thought? Atomic theory, by developing a mechanistic understanding of the universe, has laid the groundwork for a deterministic system of thought. It has also supported a materialist worldview and formed the foundations of science. Question 70. How is the atomist's understanding of ethics connected to the nature of matter? Democritus's ethical understanding links human happiness to a balanced state of mind. The balance of the soul is achieved by living in accordance with its material nature. Question 71. What kind of arguments do the atomists present about the nature of existence? The atomists argue that the foundation of existence consists of atoms and the void. According to them, everything arises from the combination of these two basic elements, and all change in nature can be explained by this movement. Question 72. What does Democritus's concept of void mean? According to Democritus, the void is a space that allows atoms to move and combine. Without the void, atoms cannot exist and change cannot occur. Question 73. What are the atomists' views on the nature of knowledge? The atomists argue that knowledge is acquired through the senses and reason. However, the senses are merely impressions resulting from the movement of atoms and can be misleading. Reasoning is necessary to reach true knowledge. Question 74. How do the atomists define the nature of the soul? Democritus argues that the soul consists of fine and mobile atoms, and that these atoms are dispersed throughout the body, providing vitality. The soul disperses and ceases to exist after the death of the body. Question 75. What concepts does atomism emphasize in the natural sciences? Atomism emphasizes the concepts of matter, motion, void, and change. It also emphasizes that events in the universe can be explained by randomness and mechanical processes. These ideas played an important role in the development of modern natural sciences. Questions about the Sophists. Question 76. What is considered to be at the center of philosophy for the Sophists? The Sophists placed humanity at the center of philosophy. They emphasized the importance of individual perception and thought, arguing that knowledge and reality are subjective. Question 77. What does Protagoras' statement, "Man is the measure of all things," mean? This statement expresses that each individual has their own unique perception of reality. According to Protagoras, truth, beauty, or ethics vary according to individual perspective and are determined by personal judgments rather than an objective standard. Question 78. What is Gorgias's relativistic approach? Gorgias, with a nihilistic and relativistic approach, put forward three basic propositions. Nothing exists. Even if something exists, it is too uncertain to be known. Even if it could be known, it cannot be communicated to others. These views have deepened the questioning of the nature of knowledge and reality. Question 79. How did the philosophy of the Sophists reflect on the understanding of society and politics? The Sophists argued that society and law were created by humans. They emphasized the mutability of legal and ethical norms because they believed they were based on a social contract, not a natural order. This particularly strengthened the understanding of democracy. Question 80. What philosophical schools of thought did the philosophy of the Sophists pave the way for in later periods? The Sophists' relativist and pragmatic ideas paved the way for both skepticism and postmodernism. In addition, their emphasis on rhetoric and the role of language in philosophy influenced modern philosophy of language. Question 81. What kind of views on the nature of reality did the Sophists' understanding of knowledge put forward? According to the Sophists, knowledge is entirely based on individual perception. Reality is a personal and context-dependent perception rather than an objective truth. Question 82. How can the Sophists' understanding of education be compared to today's education systems? The Sophists focused on rhetoric and practical skills, aiming to develop the individual's ability to express themselves and their power of persuasion. It bears similarities to today's applied education approaches and communication skills training. Question 83. What kind of criticism did the Sophists' ethical understanding receive? The Sophists argued that ethical norms are not universal but based on social consensus. This approach was criticized by Socrates and Plato on the grounds that it encouraged moral relativism and could weaken the social order. Question 84. What impact did the Sophists' views on rhetoric have? The Sophists saw rhetoric as a powerful tool and argued that it was an important skill for individuals to influence society. This approach has profoundly influenced the fields of politics, law, and communication today. Question 85. What are the Sophists' thoughts on human nature? The Sophists argued that human nature cannot be considered independent of society and culture. They emphasized environmental factors, arguing that human nature is malleable through education. Question 86. What is the Sophists' understanding of the social contract? The Sophists argued that laws are not part of a natural order, but the result of an agreement between people. This is considered one of the first examples of social contract theories. Question 87. What kind of debate did the Sophists' understanding of democracy create? The Sophists' idea that democracy would be strengthened by the education of the people was compatible with Athenian democracy, but it was criticized for the risk of abusing rhetoric. Socrates and Plato, in particular, believed that democracy was vulnerable due to a lack of knowledge. Question 88. What are the philosophical foundations of the Sophists' education system? The Sophists' education aimed to equip individuals with the practical knowledge and rhetorical skills necessary to succeed in society. It was based on the understanding that education should be tailored to individual needs and abilities. Question 89. What are the differences between the Sophists' understanding of morality and Socratic ethics? While the Sophists argued that morality varies according to context and society, Socrates believed in universal moral principles. Socrates linked morality to the individual's spiritual development, while the Sophists adopted a more pragmatic approach. Question 90. What are the Sophists' views on the relationship between knowledge and belief? The Sophists argued that knowledge and belief are not sharply separated and that knowledge is also influenced by individual beliefs. This situation has led to an understanding called epistemological relativism. Questions about the Cynics. Question 91. What did the Cynics aim for in philosophy? The Cynics aimed to achieve virtue by living a simple life and adopting a lifestyle that is in harmony with nature. According to them, happiness is not found in material wealth or social status, but in spiritual freedom and virtue. Question 92. What are Diogenes' lifestyle and thoughts? Diogenes of Sinope is the most famous representative of the Cynics. He lived a simple and humble life, despising luxury and social norms. Legend has it that he lived in a barrel and told Alexander the Great, "Stand out of my sunlight," when asked if he wanted anything. His thoughts center on the idea that humans should live according to their nature and get rid of artificial needs. Question 93. How did the Cynics criticize social norms? The Cynics argued that social norms are artificial and contrary to human nature. They rejected values such as wealth, power, and fame, claiming that they enslave people and prevent true happiness. Question 94. What is the Cynics' understanding of virtue? For the Cynics, virtue is possible by living a life in harmony with nature and being self-sufficient. Virtue is based on the individual's inner freedom and moral stance, not on external conditions. Question 95. What does the philosophy of life of the Cynic philosophers emphasize? The Cynics emphasize simplicity, self-control, reducing needs, and living in harmony with nature. According to them, for a happy life, one must get rid of artificial desires and the rules imposed by society. Question 96. What are the fundamental elements in the Cynic's understanding of morality? The fundamental elements in the Cynic's understanding of morality are simple living, honesty, freedom, and conformity to nature. According to them, morality is based on the individual's inner virtue, and social rules are not a moral requirement. Question 97. What kind of views did the Cynics put forward about human nature? The Cynics argued that human nature is to live a simple and natural life. They argued that people are corrupted by artificial rules and luxury, and that they can reach their true nature by returning to nature. Question 98. What kind of foundation did the Cynics' criticism of society create? The Cynics' criticism of society, by emphasizing individual independence and natural life, provided a basis for criticizing the social order. These criticisms resonated in later philosophical schools such as Stoicism, and the importance of individual freedom was emphasized. Question 99. What are the philosophical foundations of the Cynics' approach to simplifying life? The Cynics argued that happiness can be achieved by getting rid of artificial needs. Their philosophy is based on the principles of conformity to nature and self-sufficiency. Simplifying life was seen as a way for humans to preserve their freedom and virtue. Question 100. How did the influence of the Cynics reflect on later philosophers? The Cynics' understanding of simple living and virtue had a great influence, especially on Stoicism. In addition, the ideas of individual freedom, a critical view of social norms and moral consistency, have created an intellectual legacy that extends to modern philosophy. Questions about Socrates. Question 101. What is Socrates' greatest contribution to philosophy? Socrates' greatest contribution is that he laid the foundation for critical thinking and placed the individual and moral values at the center of philosophy. He developed a method of questioning, dialectic, that would enable people to attain knowledge and virtue through the Socratic method. Question 102. What is the Socratic method and how is it applied? The Socratic method is a method of inquiry that is carried out through dialogue about a subject, with questions and answers from both sides. The aim is to expose false beliefs and enable the individual to reach true knowledge. The Socratic method usually begins with a paradox or irony and then proceeds with gradual questioning. Question 103. What is wisdom according to Socrates? According to Socrates, wisdom is the awareness of one's own ignorance. According to him, it is difficult to have true knowledge, but wisdom begins with knowing one's own limitations and being humble about it. Question 104. What does Socrates' accusation and death mean in terms of the history of philosophy? Socrates was sentenced to death on charges of corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods of the state. This event symbolizes the clash of free thought with oppressive systems and the philosopher's sacrifice of his life for freedom of thought. Socrates' death is a turning point that emphasizes the importance of philosophy in the fields of ethics, morality, and freedom. Question 105. How did Socrates' thoughts influence philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle? As Socrates' student, Plato systematized his thoughts and developed idealist philosophy. Aristotle, also a student of Plato, carried this legacy into a scientific and logical framework. Both philosophers were influenced by Socrates' understanding of morality and virtue. Question 106. How does Socrates define the understanding of morality? According to Socrates, morality is associated with virtue and is based on knowledge. A person's knowing what is right enables them to do what is right. According to him, no one does evil knowingly. Evil is the result of ignorance. Question 107. What is the philosophical function of Socratic irony? Socratic irony is to question the other person by claiming not to know a subject and to make them realize their own contradictions. This method helps the individual to re-evaluate their thoughts and reach a deeper understanding. Question 108. What philosophical basis does the understanding of virtue advocated by Socrates rely on? Socrates links virtue with knowledge. According to him, virtue is a person's knowing what is good for themselves and society. Virtue is considered not only as an individual value, but also as a social value. Question 109. How did Socrates' understanding of the soul bring about an innovation in philosophy? Socrates saw the soul as the most important and immortal part of man and focused on the moral development and wisdom of the soul. The education and purification of the soul are at the center of his philosophy, and this approach inspired Plato's theory of the soul in later periods. Question 110. How can Socrates' philosophy be applied in daily life? Socrates' philosophy can be applied in daily life by the individual questioning themselves and directing their lives in a virtuous way. The principles of know thyself and the unexamined life is not worth living encourage the individual to constantly improve themselves. Question 111. What is the meaning of Socrates' phrase, know thyself? The phrase, know thyself, refers to the individual's recognition of their own limits of knowledge, weaknesses, and potential. This includes both intellectual and moral self-criticism. Question 112. How does Socrates define the relationship between the individual and society? Socrates argues that the individual has responsibilities to society, but that living a virtuous life is the individual's primary duty. According to him, the individual should approach social norms critically and adhere to moral truths. Question 113. What kind of model does Socrates' understanding of education offer? Socrates' understanding of education rejects rote learning and aims for the individual to find the truth by thinking. This model focuses on the active participation of the individual and critical thinking. Question 114. How do Socrates' philosophical inquiries affect individual and social values? Socrates' inquiries force individuals to re-evaluate their own values and social norms, enabling them to live more conscious and virtuous lives. Criticism of social values contributes to the moral and intellectual development of society. Question 115. How has Socrates' life and death contributed to ethical discussions? Socrates' life has shown the importance of a virtuous life and the value of sacrificing oneself for the sake of justice. His death has become a symbol of standing up to authority for individual freedom and moral truths, and has added a new dimension to concepts such as courage, loyalty, and justice in ethical discussions. Questions about Plato. Question 116. What is Plato's theory of the world of forms? Plato's theory of the world of forms proposes a world of forms that is separate from and superior to the sensory world. According to him, forms are unchanging and perfect forms beyond the physical world. Beings in the physical world are reflections of these forms. Question 117. What does the allegory of the cave tell us? Plato's allegory of the cave tells us that people live in ignorance limited by sensory perceptions, and that true knowledge can only be attained through reason. The people chained in the cave represent that the sensory world is an illusion, and that an intellectual awakening is required to reach the world of forms. Question 118. What is justice according to Plato? According to Plato, justice is a state of order in which each individual and class fulfills its duty and works in harmony. In the individual, justice emerges when a balanced harmony is achieved between the three parts of the soul: reason, desire, and spirit. Question 119. What is Plato's understanding of the state? Plato's understanding of the ideal state is based on an aristocracy ruled by philosophers. The state consists of three classes: rulers, philosophers, soldiers, and producers. Each class has its own specific duty, and justice is achieved by fulfilling these duties in harmony. Question 120. How has Plato's philosophy influenced art and literature? Plato's theory of forms has guided discussions about how art and literature should represent reality. His view of art as the imitation of forms has left a deep mark on Western aesthetics. Also in the field of literature, his works in dialogue style have formed the basis of philosophical discussions. Question 121. How does Plato define the difference between knowledge and belief? According to Plato, knowledge is based on unchanging realities belonging to the world of forms and contains certainty. Belief, on the other hand, belongs to the sensory world, is misleading, and does not carry certainty. Knowledge is acquired through reason, while belief is acquired through the senses. Question 122. What kind of social structure does Plato's understanding of the ideal state aim for? Plato's ideal state is shaped on the basis of virtue and justice. This structure aims for an egalitarian but hierarchical social order in which each individual takes on a role appropriate to their nature. Question 123. According to Plato, how is virtue the result of an educational process? According to Plato, virtue is achieved through a long process of education and purification of the soul. Education is a gradual process that develops the individual's reasoning and logical abilities in order to reach the world of forms. Question 124. How does Plato's understanding of education relate to today's education systems? Plato's understanding of education is based on the idea that the individual should develop their critical thinking skills and be raised as a beneficial individual to society. This approach is similar to the balance between individual development and social responsibility, which is accepted as a fundamental principle in today's education systems. Question 125. What is the place of the immortality of the soul in Plato's philosophy? According to Plato, the soul returns to the world of forms after the death of the body and is immortal. This understanding is based on the idea that morality and virtue are not limited to one lifetime, and that the soul is in constant development. Question 126. What kind of social order does Plato's understanding of virtue in politics suggest? Plato places virtue at the center of politics and argues that society can only live in peace with a government made up of virtuous individuals. In the ideal state ruled by philosophers, knowledge and virtue are paramount. Question 127. How does Plato evaluate the social function of art? Plato generally criticizes art and argues that art should play a limited role in the ideal state. According to him, art can alienate people from the world of forms by imitating the sensory world. However, art that serves the right purposes can have a positive function in education and society. Question 128. How has Plato's philosophy contributed to the formation of moral values? Plato, by arguing that moral values are based on the harmony of the individual soul and the division of labor in society, has placed virtue and justice on a philosophical foundation. This approach has been decisive in the development of moral philosophy. Question 129. How do Plato's ideas conflict with Aristotle's philosophy? While Plato argues that reality lies in the world of forms, Aristotle thinks that these forms are intertwined with the sensory world. Plato's metaphysical idealism and Aristotle's more empirical approach constitute their fundamental philosophical difference. Question 130. How do Plato's dialogues set the stage for philosophical discussions? Plato's dialogues present a model of discussion aimed at exploring critical thinking and different perspectives. Dialogues encourage the reader to think actively with open-ended questions and answers, and therefore provide a model for philosophical discussions. Questions about Aristotle. Question 131. What are the main areas of interest in Aristotle's philosophy? Aristotle's philosophy covers a wide range of subjects, including metaphysics, ethics, politics, logic, natural philosophy, aesthetics, and biology. In addition to fundamental questions about knowledge and existence, he also focused on the practical wisdom necessary for humans to live a virtuous life. Question 132. What is being according to Aristotle? According to Aristotle, being consists of the union of matter and form. He defines being through the processes of potentiality, dynamis, and actuality, energia. Every being, by its nature, strives to achieve a purpose, entelecheia. Question 133. What is Aristotle's four causes theory? Aristotle's four causes theory addresses the explanation of an entity or event from four different perspectives. Material cause, what something is made of. Formal cause, the structure that determines the essence or form of something. Efficient cause, the purpose or reason for something's existence. Final cause, the active factor that causes something to come into being. Question 134. How is Aristotle's political philosophy different from Plato's? While Plato aims for an ideal state, Aristotle bases his political theory on practical foundations by analyzing existing societies. Aristotle, while seeking the most appropriate form of government for the good life, is more realistic than Plato's understanding of an absolute ideal government. Question 135. In what areas was Aristotle's philosophy influential in the Middle Ages and beyond? Aristotle's philosophy had a great influence in the Middle Ages, especially in the Islamic world and Christian theology. His scientific method and understanding of logic laid the foundations of modern sciences, and his understanding of ethics and politics became an important guide in the social sciences. Question 136. According to Aristotle, what kind of moral way of life is virtue? According to Aristotle, virtue is a way of life acquired through habits and is based on the understanding of the golden mean. Virtue is about avoiding extremes and establishing a measured balance between emotions and behaviors. Question 137. What is Aristotle's understanding of the golden mean? The understanding of the golden mean argues that virtue represents a balance between excess and deficiency. For example, the virtue of courage lies at a midpoint between cowardice and recklessness. Question 138. How did Aristotle's understanding of logic bring about an innovation in philosophy? Aristotle developed the method of syllogism and made logic an independent discipline. His system of logic formed the basis of Western thought for 2,000 years and gave a systematic structure to scientific thought. Question 139. How does Aristotle define the scientific method? According to Aristotle, the scientific method involves reaching general principles from observations, induction, and drawing logical conclusions from these principles, deduction. This method aims to understand nature by combining experimental and theoretical knowledge. Question 140. What is Aristotle's understanding of aesthetics and the concept of art? Aristotle sees art as an imitation of nature. According to him, art develops the emotional and intellectual aspects of human beings. Tragedy, by creating emotional catharsis in the audience, provides a moral and emotional balance. Question 141. How is Aristotle's understanding of ethics related to practical wisdom? According to Aristotle, ethics is related to practical wisdom, phronesis, which enables the individual to live a virtuous life. Practical wisdom guides the individual to live a good life by making right decisions. Question 142. How does Aristotle's natural philosophy address the concepts of being and change? Aristotle sees nature as in constant change and motion. Change is defined as the transformation of potentiality, dynamis, into actuality, energeia. Everything in nature strives to achieve a natural purpose, telos. Question 143. What are Aristotle's thoughts on social structure? According to Aristotle, man is a political animal. Human beings live in society by nature, and the happiness of the individual is directly related to the good of society. The best social structure is one that enables individuals to live a virtuous life. Question 144. How has Aristotle's philosophy influenced the natural and social sciences? Aristotle's observation-based approach laid the foundations of modern natural sciences. In the social sciences, his views on ethics, politics, and psychology have been influential. His classification methods inspired biology, and his logic inspired social theories. Question 145. What is the definition of happiness according to Aristotle? According to Aristotle, happiness, eudaimonia, is the attainment of the highest good by human beings. This is possible by living a virtuous life and using reason to its fullest. Happiness is the ultimate goal of life and the fulfilled state of human nature. We have added depth to our philosophical journey, leaving 145 questions behind. However, our journey does not end here. Don't miss our third video to complete 230 questions and set sail for new ideas. See you in the next video.